I believe strongly that Satan is real, that he is alive, that he's organized, that he's smart, that he works against individuals, and we talked about that in the last two sermons, and today I want to talk about how Satan works on a global level and how he works in this world. On that first slide that I'm going to show, you see the difference between Christianity, Judaism, and Islam in their understanding of who Satan is. In Christianity, we believe that Satan is somebody who works against God, actively works against God. He's the enemy of God in Christianity. God is working to defeat Satan forever and to destroy him. And we believe that Satan tempts people, that Satan gets people to, get into trouble, and like with Adam and Eve, temptations and sins and doing things that are against God's commandments, and in the end, ultimately a blasphemy against God. This is what Satan is working on, a blasphemy against God. And we see that in the history of the nation of Israel, for example, with King Solomon and many other kings, when they have congregated together with the nations, pagan nations around them, and worshiped gods other than God the Creator. That's the ultimate blasphemy that Satan is working on for each one of us, to reject God, to reject Jesus, and to worship something other than Jesus Christ. So that's what we believe in Christianity. In Islam, it's similar. Satan is to be judged by God. Satan is the enemy of God, and Satan is also there to test humanity, to see who is going to stand straight and who is going to go astray. In Judaism, they don't have that concept, for example. They believe that Satan is part of the system. He is a servant of God. His job is to test human beings like he did Job. So when you think about Judaism, you don't have Revelation 12, which we are going to read here in a minute. You have only the Old Testament. You don't have the New Testament where we draw our theology of Satan. They believe that Satan is just one of God's servants. He's not going to be judged in the end, and his job is to tempt you, but the ultimate decision for your behavior is yours. So this is the differences between Christianity, Judaism, and Islam in their understanding of who Satan is. Now, we as Christians, we go to chapter 12 of Revelation to understand a little bit better who he is, where he comes from, what he does, and so on. Excuse me. And that's what I want to talk about today and see if I can explain it a little bit better. In verse 7, it says, "And there was a war in heaven," and this is the text that we all know, right? "And Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not." I took this right out of King James because it's much more dramatic than it is in some other versions. And I thought that we needed a little dramatic today, a little drama. "And Satan prevailed not, neither was their place," Satan and his angels, "found anymore in heaven." So in Christianity, we believe that there was actually a war in heaven, that Satan rose up, rebelled against God, and that he actually talked a whole number, 1/3 of God's angels, into following him and into saying, "Hey, I got this. God is not just." I mean, in Seventh-day Adventism, this is what we teach, that Satan believed that God is not just and God is not right. And God lies because he told you you were going to die, and you're not going to die. You're going to live forever, and you're going to have wisdom and knowledge and all of that. In the religion of Satanism, they also teach that Satan is a good guy, that he is trying to open the eyes of the humanity to see the true nature of God. And that Satanism teaches that God is the tyrant. And God is the one who commands us and gives us all of these laws that he knows we cannot keep, and it's not fair and it's not right, and how could you put human beings, a husband and wife, in this garden and tell them to eat everything, but then tell them that you can't touch this one thing? Of course they're going to touch it. This is Satanism, right? Just like if you tell your kids, you can have everything in this house except this bowl of cookies. You can't touch this, and try it. Put it on the kitchen counter and see what happens. And invariably your kids are going to, right? So this is what Satanism teaches, that Satan is he wants to give us freedom. He wants us to understand who God really is. And God is just a tyrant, you see. So according to this teaching, Satan talked 1/3 of God's angels into believing that God is not fair, God is not right, and actually went to war with God. We don't know the nature of that war. We don't know. I mean, we can guess. We can use our imagination, but we don't know. We never saw that particular Star Wars episode. We just didn't see it. We don't know what it was, how it was fought. But it was fought. In verse 8 says that they prevailed not in their place, and they were kicked out of heaven. In other words, once you rebel against God, you can't just continue receiving the benefits of, if you don't pay rent, you're going to be kicked out of the apartment, you see? And this is what happened. If you don't pay respect to God, and if you don't go along with his authority, then you end up getting kicked out of heaven. So Satan is referred to as a great dragon in verse 9. He was cast out. He is the old serpent. Remember, the serpent was the one that deceived Eve. Called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was, Satan's job is to do what? To deceive the whole world, right? He deceives the whole world. What does that mean, to deceive? Just like he deceived Eve. He told her, you're not going to die. You're going to have all of this knowledge. You're going to be okay. So I believe, personally, my belief is that Satan tries to manipulate us Christians into believing things that are not true. About God, about Christianity, about Jesus. There is all kinds of deceitful teachings that are going around right now. All paths lead to God, and New Age, and all of the religions are good, and you don't need Jesus, and all of that stuff. And a lot of people are buying into these teachings, and Satan is telling them this is the way that you can go. Where does it lead in the end? Blasphemy against God, where you reject Jesus Christ and you bow down and worship the evil spirits. Satan himself, in the ancient Israel, the name was Baal. Baal was the god. Baal was really the personification of Satan, and people worshipped, bowed down, offered their children as a sacrifice to Satan. That's where it eventually leads to. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice, verse 10, saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength in the kingdom of God and the power of Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. So Satan does two things. He deceives and he accuses, right? When Satan went before God, he accused Job of, hey, if you just take away the blessings from this man, he's going to curse you. He's going to pull away from you. If you just hurt him, if you just do something to him that's going to cause him pain, he's going to turn away from you. Do you see, when you look at that story, do you see the role of pain in your life? When we experience pain, when we experience loss, when we experience tragedy, personal loss, financial loss, the purpose for the pain, when Satan causes pain, The purpose is to try and separate you from God, to try and get you to curse God, to blaspheme against God, to just say, what kind of God would allow this to happen to me? What kind of God would allow, and we are all tempted to do that. I was. I don't know. My father lost both legs to diabetes. I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, why? Why would God allow that? My dad always served God, You get to the point where you start questioning, and the greater the pain, and the greater the suffering, the greater temptation to blame God. So I'm telling you this because it is important for us to know this, because when we deal with painful situations, I want you to know that Satan is trying to get you to really turn against God at that point and say, why am I not blessed? And all of these evil people out there, they are. That's the tactic. That's how he works. So he accuses. He's the accuser of our brethren. He's cast down, which accuse them before our God day and night, and they overcame him. How did we overcome? How do both angels and humans overcome Satan? By the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. And they loved not their lives unto the death. Therefore rejoice, you heavens, and you that dwell in them. And then he says in the next sentence, woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he had but a short time. So this is where we are at right now, I believe. Our generation. Our generation is at this point where Satan is extremely angry because he knows that his time is short on this earth. And whatever he has to do fast. And he has to be effective. And there is no room for mistakes here. Because his job, his purpose is to turn as many people away from God as possible. Through a variety of means, which I'm going to go into here in a minute. But this is where we are at as Christians. And most Christians don't realize that Satan is angry. Let me put it this way. He's angry at you personally. You understand? I'm not talking about the General Conference or the Catholic Church or the Baptist Church. No. I'm talking about you personally. He's angry at you personally for following the teachings of Jesus. That's what he's angry at. Because the teachings of Jesus reflect the true nature of God. And the true nature of God is love and mercy and compassion and forgiveness and a love for your enemies and so on and so on and so on. And this is what he's been fighting against all of his life, you see. And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman, which is a symbol for the church, which brought forth the man-child. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time. And you have studied about this in the Revelation Daniel seminars over and over again. But she was nourished from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman. Satan, throughout the history, has been coming against the Christians and Christian church and the followers of Jesus, that he might cause her, the church, to be carried away of the flood. In verse 16, this is all symbolic language. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. In other words, the church is not going to disappear. People of God are not going to disappear. God is going to be there to protect, to save the remnant, to leave the remnant for him as a testimony to God and for God. And the dragon, verse 17 says, was wroth. He was angry with a woman, with the church, with the followers of Christ. And what did he do? He went to make war with you, with a remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. I mean, if you keep God's commandments, the 10 commandments that we find in the Old Testament, and if you follow the teachings of Jesus, which we have in the New Testament, which are very clear, teachings of Jesus are counter society, counter culture, counter what's normal in this world today. That's what teachings of Jesus are. Now, if you follow that, then Satan is going to come after you. And how is he going to come after you? Cause all kinds of problems, cause all kinds of issues. Goal number one is to demoralize. That's one of the things that Satan wants to do. And today we have in the world, I mean, if you just look at in the United States, you don't even have to look at the world. If you look at the United States right now, this moment, you're going to find out that a whole lot of people are demoralized. Why? Because they have all kinds of issues. How many people have financial crisis right now as we talk? You know, I am reading these reports that within a very few short years, majority of Americans are now going to own a house. They're going to live in the apartment buildings because of the cost. The cost of running or operating a house right now is almost $3,000 a month. If you want to own a house. If you want to rent an apartment, it's a lot less. So I'm looking at all of these apartments all over the country that are being built at an incredible speed, and I'm like, who's going to live here? I'm like, I always ask myself, are we having people coming in from Mars? Are they planning to have like 5 kids per family? What's going on, you know? Right down here, the road, you know, you drive down 64th, and you have apartment buildings built left and right, 3 stories high. And, you know, so I talked to a realtor friend of mine, and he says, and I said what I said, and he says, well, yeah, all of the people who are not going to be able to pay their mortgage, and when they lose their house, they're going to go and move into these apartments. And I'm like, is this a real thing? He goes, yeah, this is a real thing. It's happening. This is why these huge corporations are building these apartment buildings, and they're planning to buy off your house at pennies on the dollar when everything crashes and you can't afford to live in there anymore. So people have all kinds of financial crises. We have corruption like you have never seen anywhere in the world today. You know, with these wars and with these countries getting money, and our own government, both Democrats and Republicans, you know, stealing left and right like there is no tomorrow, you know, insider trading, doing all kinds of crazy things to enrich themselves. And the people, the citizens, the population, we see all of this, but there is nothing we can do about it. We read about it, but there is nothing we can do about it. It causes you to be demoralized. System today favors greed. People have unmet needs. You know, I saw yesterday, I read a little news story that the #1 videos on TikTok are the ones where a person goes into a grocery store and they film the prices of groceries. So one guy walked into a grocery store and just filmed a bunch of, you know, items, what they cost, and he got like 100,000 views within minutes. I mean, this is a real issue. People have unmet needs. People don't know, you know, if they're going to have enough money for food. Milos is preaching next week here, and he's going to tell you about his experience back in the old country and what the local church, his church where he grew up, and where I grew up too when I was a little kid, you know, what they are doing to help the people who are suffering financially, because there are a lot of poor people over there as well. People who can't warm up their house in the winter because the price of fuel is so expensive through the roof. In Europe, it's just insane. And it's happening here too. It's happening here too. If I look at my electricity bill, electric and gas bill now versus 10 years ago, it's night and day. It's insanity out there. So Satan is using all of these things to demoralize, resentment. On the next picture, I'm showing you a picture of two American oligarchs. So the Elon Musk, and this, I got to tell you this is what somebody figured out, and this is what they said. They said that if you lived 80,000 years ago, 80,000 years ago, not 8,000, but 80,000 years ago, if you were born 80,000 years ago and you didn't die, and you saved every day for 80,000 years, $10,000 every single day for 80,000 years, you would not have as much money as this guy has today. But then you're probably paying more taxes than he does, because you're making 50, 60,000 a year. But you see where I'm going with this? There is tremendous amount of resentment out there about what's going on in this world, the inequalities and the poverties and just injustice and the lack of, people have serious lack of money in this country, can't afford school, can't afford to pay their loans back, can't afford a car. I just talked to a person this week who told me that they are about to give up on their car, get rid of their car. I said, how are you going to get around? He said, I just can't afford it anymore. I'll just get the bus pass. Between the insurance and the gas and the maintenance and everything else. What else Satan uses? He uses division. Today you have divided society in every way, in the United States and all over the world. Economically, politically, socially, ethnically, religiously. We are divided. Even in the same church, people can be divided over political issues. Democrats and Republicans, conservatives and liberals. Socially, you have people who are, not doing good like you are. Ethnically, in 2026, we still have racism, and we still have people looking down at other people because they are of a different complexion. This is all exasperated and overemphasized in our society by the people in power, I'm going to say. Why? Because then it's easier to control the population. If everybody is divided, if nobody likes each other, if everybody hates each other, then you can control that kind of a group, because they're never going to be united on any issues. On the next picture, you see what's going on there. And this is happening all over the world. All over the world right now in Europe. You're thinking about England or Germany or France, and you're thinking democracy. And you are thinking personal freedoms, and you're thinking people have rights. No, they don't. I mean, in England, they're putting people in jail for what they post on social media. In Germany, they're beating people within an inch of life because they are carrying the wrong flag when they're protesting. There is no more personal rights. There is no more freedoms. There is no more freedom of speech. None of this stuff. In this country, same thing. And it's happening under both administrations, liberal and conservative. And before you know it, we are going to lose in this country completely the freedom of speech, freedom of religion. And you know what? Second Amendment is going away too. I believe that 100%, most likely under the conservative administration. That's my feeling. Because conservatives are going to listen to the conservative administration. What's next? Hatred. Explosion of hatred all over the world. You realize that everybody hates everybody? It's almost like something is in the air. And if you breathe it, you start hating on people. Europeans hate Arabs. Arabs hate Indians. Indians hate Chinese. I don't know if Chinese hate anybody. I haven't heard. They genuinely seem to be very peaceful people. But you see what I'm saying? An explosion of hatred. Political, religious, and social. Satan is going after those who keep the commandments of God and testimony of Jesus. Testimony of Jesus says that we are not of this world. When they asked Jesus to get involved in political issues, he says, my kingdom is not of this world. That's what Jesus said, right? So he did not promote any kind of a division between people on a political, religious, or social levels. Jesus taught that we are all in the same boat and that we all have the common enemy who is Satan. And that common enemy wants to deprive us of eternal life, all of us. Christian, Muslims, Jews, liberals, conservatives, communists, I don't care. Satan doesn't care if you're a communist or if you're a capitalist. He doesn't care. He just wants to deprive you of your inheritance, of your eternal life. And if he can use any of these issues to build up hate in your heart, or anger, or resentment, or lack of empathy, to look at wars that we have right now. Look, show you the next picture, you know, for people to look at this picture and to say, oh yeah, they deserve that. They deserve that. You know, this is where we are at as human beings now. Where people are saying, oh yeah, this little girl, she deserves that. Because her people attacked the other people. So she deserves to die like this. In that picture, you see the nature of Satan. You see the nature of Satan. And that's what he wants you and I to behave like. And then another one that I want to mention also real quick is love of the world. We see that today more than any time in history before, right? Everybody wants to be a superstar on TikTok. Everybody wants to show off their latest riches and wealth and money, and people are just so money crazy at this time. It's just insane. They'll do anything, post anything, do all kinds of crazy stuff, illegal things, unethical things, unhealthy things, dishonest things, just to make it, just to get that edge, just to become famous, just to get money. Selfishness, pride, showing off. That's all the social media is now all about. It's just showing off. Showing off. I have to show off. This is the way of the world. This is the love of the world. This is Satan. Pure and simple, this is Satan. So we as Christians, we got to abandon all of this stuff. I would say we got to abandon all of this stuff. You can't go there. You can't engage in any of this stuff. If you are under the direct influence of Satan. That's what I believe. If you're allowing these things into your heart, into your mind, then you become, you know. And the dragon was wrath with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Go back for me, Kendra, on slide 18, please. The one that says to demoralize. There you go. What did Jesus say about money? Don't love it. The root of all evil. What did Jesus say? Jesus says, I'm going to take care of you. Jesus says, do not worry about what the day brings tomorrow. Jesus says God takes care of the little birds. He's going to take care of you more than he will of them. God says, I got you. I'll take care of you. Don't worry about this stuff. Satan wants to demoralize people who are struggling with financially. Jesus says, put your trust in me. Those who keep the commandments of God and the testimony of Jesus. Jesus' testimony is, I clothed the birds of the air and the flowers. And the whole earth is mine. That's what Jesus says. Right? Go to the slide number 20, where he talks about division. What does Jesus have to say about this? What is his testimony about this? His testimony is, we are all in this together. Love those who persecute you. Pray for those who are your enemies. Turn the other cheek. Forgive. Why? So that your Father in heaven can forgive you. Because you're not perfect either. You see, and this is who Satan is attacking. If you are practicing what Jesus says, your relationship with other people, then Satan is going to attack you. He doesn't want you to pray for your enemies. He wants you to kill your enemies. Satan doesn't want you to turn the other cheek. He wants you to, if a person slaps you, Satan wants you to stab them back in the heart. That's the way of this world. That's what he wants. And if you go to slide 22, hatred, explosion of hatred. Jesus clearly says, love your enemies. Clearly. Love and pray. In love of the world, slide 24, the teachings of Jesus on that are, don't be prideful, don't be arrogant, don't be selfish. Somebody asks you for a shirt, give them a coat. Feed the hungry, take care of the needy. Help those who are struggling, help those who are suffering. People who follow the testimony of Jesus are going to be attacked by Satan. That's a fact. If you're being attacked by Satan right now today, it's because you have chosen to follow Jesus. You have chosen, and maybe, look, maybe we don't follow Jesus perfectly. None of us do. But just the fact that you're attempting, that you're trying your best to follow Jesus, is enough to get Satan after you. That's enough. Because he does not want you to develop. He does not want you to grow in love. He does not want you to grow in Jesus and in the Holy Spirit. So the moment he sees that you are seeking the Lord and his presence in your life, he's going to attack you. Because he does not want you to grow. He does not want you to become a giant of faith. And this is why so many people, they make one step forward and then two steps backwards, and then one step forward, because Satan keeps coming after them. So we need to be vigilant as Christians. We need to be vigilant in our prayer. We need to be vigilant in our church attendance. We need to be vigilant in our study. We need to be vigilant in our service to others and to God. We need to be faithful in everything. We need to make, a decision every day, a new decision. I'm going to follow Jesus no matter what. I'm going to submit to God. I'm not going to blaspheme against God because things are not going well in my life right now. That's what our attitude needs to be like.